The salty breeze carried ghosts. Celeste Rivera's hands trembled on the steering wheel as Moon Haven materialized through the coastal fog. 5 years. 5 years since she'd fled this town with her heart in pieces and rage burning through her veins like wildfire. The lighthouse still stood watch over the harbor. Victorian houses still climbed the hillside in pastel rose. Nothing had changed, as if the town itself had frozen the moment Adrienne Blackwood died. She pulled into the Seahorse in parking lot and killed the engine. This place. God, this place. She could still feel the ghost of their first kiss pressed against these walls, could still hear Adrienne's laugh echoing across the years. Adrienne. Beautiful, fearless Adrienne with his dark eyes and warm hands and dreams of saving the world. The marine biology student and the environmental law crusader. They were supposed to change everything together. Then came that October night. His voice crackling through the phone, electric with discovery. Celeste, I found something big. Something that could expose the illegal dumping poisoning our coastline. Meet me at the pier in an hour. She'd arrived to police lights painting the darkness red and blue. To Adrienne's body floating face down in black water. To the end of everything. Jake Morrison had been arrested within 48 hours. Local fisherman. History of violence. Case closed. Except now Morrison wanted parole. Early release. Freedom. While Adrienne rotted in the ground. Celeste checked into her room with mechanical precision. She'd spent 5 years preparing for this moment, building her case, collecting witness statements, documenting every violent incident in Morrison's past. The parole board would hear her testimony. They would see what kind of monster he really was. But first, she needed to look him in the eyes. The next morning, she drove to the county jail, her heartbeat a war drum in her chest. She'd arranged the visit through Morrison's public defender, pretending to be a journalism student researching the case. The lie came easily now. She'd become an expert at masks. The visiting room smelled like industrial cleaner and desperation. Metal tables bolted to concrete. Fluorescent lights humming overhead. Then a door opened, and Jake Morrison shuffled in. Celeste's breath stopped. He looked smaller than she remembered from the trial. Thinner. His hair had gone gray at the temples, and prison had carved deep lines into his face. But his eyes were what caught her. They weren't the eyes of a killer. They were the eyes of a broken man. He sat down across from her, studying her face with an intensity that made her skin crawl. You're not a journalism student. His voice was rough, unused. You're Celeste Rivera. Adrienne's girlfriend. Her carefully constructed lie shattered. How did you? I've been waiting for you. He leaned forward, chains rattling. Waiting 5 years for someone to finally ask the right questions. Because I didn't kill Adrienne Blackwood. Rage exploded through her chest. You lying piece of. I loved him too. The words hung in the air between them like smoke. Celeste felt the world tilt sideways. What? I loved him too. The confession echoed in the sterile room. Celeste's mind reeled, trying to make sense of Morrison's words while her heart screamed that this was just another manipulation. You're insane. Her voice came out strangled. You murdered him. I was there that night. Morrison's eyes held hers, unflinching. But I didn't kill him. Adrienne called me to meet him at the pier before he called you. He said he needed backup, that what he'd discovered was dangerous. When I arrived, he was already dead. Liar. But her voice wavered. He was investigating Harborside Logistics. The shipping company. They were dumping toxic waste 3 miles offshore, poisoning everything. Morrison's hands clenched into fists. Adrienne found proof. Financial records, manifests, everything. And someone killed him for it. The room spun. Celeste gripped the edge of the table. If you're innocent, why did you confess? Something dark flickered across Morrison's face. Because they threatened my daughter. Sarah. She was 7 years old. They said if I didn't take the plea deal, if I didn't keep my mouth shut, they'd make sure she had an accident. Who? Who threatened you? I don't know. But I know Adrienne gave someone a copy of those files before he died. As insurance. Morrison leaned closer, his voice dropping to barely a whisper. He told me if anything happened to him, the evidence would be with someone he trusted completely. Someone who could finish what he started. Celeste's blood turned to ice. He never gave me anything. Maybe you weren't looking in the right place. The guard's voice cut through the tension. Time's up. Morrison stood, chains clanking. 5 years I've rotted in here for a crime I didn't commit. 5 years while the Real killers walked free. You want revenge, Celeste? Then find the truth. Because the man you loved died trying to expose something that powerful people would kill to protect. As they led him away, he called back over his shoulder. Check his research office at the university. Locker 247. The combination is your birthday. Her birthday. Celeste sat frozen long after he'd gone, her mind fracturing into 1,000 jagged pieces. Everything she'd believed, everything she'd built her grief and rage upon, suddenly felt unstable. That afternoon, she drove to Moonhaven University. The Marine Sciences building looked exactly as she remembered. Adrienne's office had been cleaned out years ago, but the grad student lockers remained. Her hands shook as she spun the combination. August 15, 03, the lock clicked open. Inside was a single manila envelope, yellowed with age. Her name written across it in Adrienne's familiar handwriting. She tore it open. Inside were financial documents, shipping manifests, photographs of barrels being dumped from boats in the dead of night. And a letter. My love, if you're reading this, I'm probably dead. Tears blurred her vision. His words. His voice echoing across 5 years of silence. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I dragged you into this. But I can't let them keep poisoning our ocean. By the time you find this, you'll know about harborside logistics. What you don't know is who's really behind it. Celeste, it's not just a shipping company. It's connected to people at the highest levels of Moonhaven. People who will kill to protect their interests. The letter continued, but the next line made her blood run cold. I think someone close to me is involved. Someone I trusted. They've been asking too many questions about my research. If something happens to me, be careful who you trust. Even the people investigating my death. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered with a trembling hand. Hello? Ms. Rivera. The voice was smooth, professional, male. This is Detective Marcus Chen. I handled Adrienne Blackwood's case 5 years ago. I heard you're back in town, asking questions about Jake Morrison. I think we should talk. There are things about that night you need to know. What things? Not over the phone. Meet me at the old pier. Midnight. Come alone. The line went dead. Celeste stared at Adrienne's letter, at the evidence scattered across her lap, at the unraveling of everything she thought she knew. The detective who'd investigated Adrienne's murder wanted to meet her. Alone. At midnight. At the exact place where Adrienne had died. Every instinct screamed danger. Midnight found Celeste standing at the edge of the pier where Adrienne had died. Salt spray misted her face. Waves crashed against the pilings below, the same hungry sound that had swallowed the man she loved. She'd tucked Adrienne's evidence into her jacket, her phone set to auto-upload everything to a secure cloud if she didn't check in within the hour. If she was walking into a trap, at least the truth wouldn't die with her. Footsteps echoed behind her. She turned to see a man in his 50s approaching, hands visible, expression careful. Detective Marcus Chen looked exactly like his photos from the trial. Sharp eyes. Tired face. The weight of too many cases pressing down on his shoulders. Ms. Rivera. Thank you for coming. You said you had information about Adrienne's death. Chen stopped 10 feet away, maintaining distance. I've carried the weight of that case for 5 years. Something never sat right about it. The evidence against Morrison was almost too perfect. Too neat. What are you saying? I'm saying I think Jake Morrison was telling the truth. And I think I know who really killed Adrienne Blackwood. Celeste's heart hammered. Who? Chen's face twisted with something that looked like pain. My partner. Detective Sarah Vance. She's been on Harborside Logistics payroll for years. When Adrienne started digging into their operations, she made sure he was silenced. Then she framed Morrison, threatened his daughter, and forced him to confess. The world tilted. Why are you telling me this now? Because Vance found out you're back in town. She knows you met with Morrison. She thinks you have the evidence. Chen's voice grew urgent. She's planning to kill you tonight and make it look like you committed suicide out of grief. She's on her way here right now. Ice flooded Celeste's veins. Then why did you tell me to come here? Because I need you to trust me. Chen pulled out his phone, pressed record. I need you to repeat everything Morrison told you. Everything in that envelope. On record. It's the only way to protect you and finally bring her down. Celeste's mind raced. Trust the detective who'd worked the case with Adrienne's real killer? Who'd let Morrison rot in prison for 5 years? How do I know you're not working with her? How do I know this isn't the trap? You don't. Chen's voice was raw. But in about 5 minutes, Vance is going to arrive with a gun and a story about how she found you trying to jump. You have one choice. Trust me and go on record, or try to run and die before you make it to your car. Headlights swept across the parking lot behind them. That's her. Chen's hand moved toward his weapon. Decide now, Celeste. Do you want justice for Adrienne or do you want to die with your revenge? A car door slammed. Footsteps approaching fast. Celeste pulled out her phone, hands shaking, finger hovering over the record button. Everything in her screamed confusion. Morrison's confession. Chen's revelation. The evidence in her jacket. Adrienne's warning about trusting the wrong people. Detective Sarah Vance emerged from the shadows, gun already drawn. Well, well. Vance's voice was cold silk. The girlfriend returns. How touching. Chen stepped between them. Sarah, don't do this. Move aside, Marcus. This doesn't concern you. I know everything. The payments. Harborside. What you did to Adrienne Blackwood. Vance's laugh was sharp as broken glass. You think you know everything? Marcus, you naive fool. You've been a useful idiot for 5 years, never questioning, always following orders like a good little dog. She raised her weapon, aiming past Chen directly at Celeste. Give me the evidence, girl. The files Adrienne hid. Hand them over and I'll make this quick. Celeste's voice came out steady despite her terror. You killed him. You looked into his eyes and murdered him in cold blood. He was going to ruin everything. Cost hundreds of jobs. Destroy the town's economy. All for some fish and dolphins. Vance's finger tightened on the trigger. He was weak. Just like you. He was brave. Tears streamed down Celeste's face. He was everything you'll never be. Chen moved. Fast. Faster than Vance expected. His body slammed into hers as the gun fired, the shot going wide, both detectives crashing to the wooden planks in a tangle of limbs. Run. Chen's voice roared through the chaos. Upload the files. Go. But Celeste stood frozen, watching the two detectives struggle. Watching Chen fight to restrain his former partner. Watching him take a fist to the jaw, an elbow to the ribs, fighting to protect her. Vance's gun skittered across the pier toward Celeste's feet. Time crystallized. She could pick up the weapon. She could end this right now. Put a bullet in the woman who'd murdered Adrienne. 5 years of rage and grief and burning need for revenge, all focused into this single moment. Her hand reached for the gun. Don't. Chen's voice, strained, desperate. Don't become like her. Let the law handle this. Let justice win. But as her fingers closed around cold metal, Vance broke free, lunging toward her with something glinting in her hand. A knife. Celeste raised the gun and fired. The gunshot echoed across the harbor like thunder. Vance collapsed, clutching her shoulder, the knife clattering away. Blood spread across the pier's weathered wood, black in the moonlight. Celeste stood frozen, the gun heavy in her trembling hands, smoke curling from the barrel. She'd done it. She'd actually done it. Chen scrambled forward, kicking Vance's weapons away, pulling out handcuffs. It's over, Sarah. It's finally over. But as he secured his former partner, Celeste saw something in Vance's face. Not pain. Not defeat. Triumph. You stupid, stupid girl. Vance's laugh bubbled up through blood-flecked lips. You think Marcus is your savior? You think he's the hero in this story? Shut up, Chen snarled, but his voice carried an edge of panic. Tell her, Marcus. Tell her why you really called her here tonight. Vance's eyes glittered with malice. Tell her who else is on Harborside's payroll. Ice crystallized in Celeste's chest. What is she talking about? Chen's face had gone pale. She's lying. Trying to manipulate you. Am I? Vance coughed, crimson staining her teeth. Check his bank records, sweetheart. Check who's been receiving monthly deposits of $15,000 for the past 7 years. Not me. Him. That's not true. But Chen wouldn't meet Celeste's eyes. The pieces clicked into place with horrifying clarity. You were there that night. Not just Vance. Both of you. Celeste, please. You helped kill him. Her voice broke. You helped murder Adrienne and then you investigated your own crime. You put Morrison in prison to cover your tracks. Chen's shoulders sagged. The mask crumbled. It wasn't supposed to happen like that. We just wanted to scare him, make him drop the investigation. But Adrienne fought back. He tried to run. There was a struggle and you let an innocent man rot in prison for 5 years. Rage burned through her grief. You let Morrison's daughter grow up without her father. You let me spend 5 years believing a lie. I tried to make it right. I've been trying to build a case against Harborside ever since. Collecting evidence. Waiting for the right moment to. To what? Ease your guilty conscience? Celeste's laugh was broken glass. You're not a hero, Chen. You're just another killer trying to justify his sins. Sirens wailed in the distance. Growing closer. Vance's smile was victorious even through her pain. Someone called the cops about shots fired. Guess who showed up to investigate? Let me give you a hint. He's also on the payroll. Chen's face went white. No. No, no, no. They weren't supposed to. Blue lights painted the pier. A squad car skidded to a stop, doors flying open. 2 officers emerged, weapons drawn. The lead officer's voice was cold. Drop the gun, ma'am. Step away from the detectives. Celeste looked at the gun in her hands. At Chen's desperate face. At Vance's triumphant smirk. At the approaching officers who were probably paid to ensure this evidence never saw daylight. She was surrounded by killers and corrupt cops. One woman against an entire system built on blood money and lies. Her phone buzzed. The auto-upload had completed. Adrienne's evidence was now in the cloud. Safe. Permanent. But would anyone ever see it if she died here tonight? I said drop the weapon. The officer's finger moved to his trigger. Wait. Chen stood, hands raised. This woman is a witness. She has evidence about Adrienne Blackwood's murder. Evidence that implicates Marcus Chen. You're under arrest for obstruction of justice and conspiracy. The officer's voice was mechanical. Rehearsed. You've been under investigation by Internal Affairs for 6 months. We have everything. The payments, the falsified reports, all of it. Celeste's mind reeled. What? A woman stepped out from behind the squad car. Late 40s, sharp suit, FBI badge gleaming. Ms. Rivera, I'm Special Agent Rebecca Torres. We've been building a case against Harborside Logistics and their network of corrupted officials for 2 years. Detective Chen was our confidential informant. The world stopped spinning. Chen looked at her, and for the first time, she saw the truth in his eyes. The exhaustion. The guilt. The desperate hope for redemption. I couldn't bring Adrienne back, he said quietly. But I could make sure his death meant something. That Harborside and everyone they corrupted faced justice. Even if it meant confessing my own crimes. Vance's triumphant expression crumbled to horror. You wore a wire. This whole time, you were wearing a wire. Every conversation. Every payment. Every threat. Chen's voice was hollow. Including tonight. Including your confession to Adrienne's murder. Agent Torres approached Celeste carefully. We have medical units standing by for Detective Vance. We'll need your statement and the evidence you recovered. With what we've gathered and what you've provided, we can dismantle the entire operation. Harborside. The corrupt officials. All of it. Celeste looked at Chen. The man who'd helped kill Adrienne. The man who'd spent 5 years trying to atone. Jake Morrison goes free? Morrison's conviction will be overturned. He'll be released within 48 hours. Torres paused. Chen's testimony will put him there, but Chen will also face charges for his role in Blackwood's death. Justice isn't clean, Ms. Rivera. But it's real. The gun slipped from Celeste's fingers, clattering to the pier. 5 years of rage. 5 years of grief. 5 years of burning need for revenge. And now, standing in the exact spot where Adrienne died, she felt hollow. Chen was led away in handcuffs. Vance was loaded into an ambulance under guard. The pier emptied until only Celeste and Agent Torres remained. Will it be enough? Celeste's voice was barely a whisper. Will any of it bring him back? Torres's expression softened. No. But it will mean he didn't die for nothing. Isn't that what he would have wanted? Celeste pulled Adrienne's letter from her jacket, the paper soft from being held so many times. His final words to her. Finish what I started. She looked out at the dark ocean, at the waves that had swallowed so much pain and blood and truth. There's one more thing you need to know, she said to Torres. 6 months later, Celeste stood on the deck of a research vessel 3 miles offshore. The sun was setting, painting the water gold and crimson. Her team moved around her with practiced efficiency, pulling up water samples, documenting the recovery. The toxic waste that had poisoned this coastline for decades was finally being cleaned up. Federal funding. Criminal restitution from Harborside's bankruptcy proceedings. Adrienne's evidence had started a cascade that reached Washington, toppling politicians and corporate executives like dominoes. Jake Morrison stood beside her at the railing, his daughter Sarah tucked against his side. The girl was 12 now. Old enough to understand what her father had sacrificed to keep her safe. Old enough to understand that sometimes innocent people pay the price for evil committed by others. "Thank you," Morrison said quietly. "For believing me. For finding the truth." Celeste nodded, her throat tight. She'd testified at his exoneration hearing. She'd watched him walk out of prison into his daughter's arms. She'd helped him rebuild the life that had been stolen from him. It didn't erase her 5 years of misdirected rage. But it was something. "What will you do now?" Morrison asked. "This." She gestured at the research vessel, at the ocean stretching endlessly in all directions. "Finish what Adrienne started. Document the recovery. Make sure it never happens again." Morrison smiled sadly. "He'd be proud of you." Would he? Celeste wasn't sure. She'd killed no one that night on the pier, despite every instinct screaming for blood. Vance had survived, was serving 30 years for murder and corruption. Chen had received 20 years, reduced for his cooperation. The FBI had dismantled a network of corruption that stretched across 3 states. Justice. Real, complicated, imperfect justice. But Adrienne was still gone. A figure approached across the deck. Marcus Chen's daughter, Emma. 23 years old, a criminal justice student who'd asked to volunteer with Celeste's research project. The girl carried her father's guilt like a stone, was determined to honor her father's attempt at redemption by dedicating her life to fighting corruption. "Dr. Rivera? We're getting some interesting readings from the coral restoration site. I think you should see this." Celeste followed Emma to the monitoring station. On the screen, vibrant colors bloomed where death had reigned for decades. New growth. New life. The ocean healing itself, given time and protection. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "I heard what you did. What you're doing. Thank you for not letting anger consume you the way I let it consume me. Thank you for choosing justice over revenge. You're stronger than I ever was. Your friend, Marcus Chen." She deleted it without responding. Some wounds couldn't be healed with words. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Celeste pulled out the photograph she always carried. Adrienne at 22, laughing on this very ocean, alive with dreams and passion and fearless hope. "I finished it," she whispered to his memory. "I finished what you started. And I didn't let the darkness win." The ocean whispered back, eternal and knowing. It had swallowed her first love, had hidden secrets and sins beneath its waves for years. But it was also capable of renewal. Of healing. Of life continuing even after devastating loss. Morrison and Sarah said their goodbyes, heading back to Moon Haven to begin rebuilding their shattered lives. Emma returned to her studies. The research team packed up for the night. Celeste remained on deck, watching stars emerge in the darkening sky. She'd come to Moon Haven 6 months ago consumed by rage, prepared to destroy anyone who stood between her and revenge. She'd discovered a truth more complicated than she ever imagined. That people could be both monsters and victims. That justice rarely came clean. That love could survive even death, transforming into something else. Something harder. Something that demanded you be better than your worst instincts. The water rocked the vessel gently. Somewhere beneath these waves, Adrienne's molecules had dissolved into the eternal ocean, becoming part of the very ecosystem he died to protect. In some strange way, he was here. In every sample they tested. Every species that returned to these waters. Every victory against the forces that would poison the world for profit. She touched her lips to the photograph one last time, then slipped it back into her pocket. Tomorrow, the research would continue. The documentation. The testimony. The slow, grinding work of making sure Adrienne's sacrifice meant something lasting. Tonight, she simply stood witness to the ocean's memory, to love's transformation, to the bittersweet truth that sometimes the only way to honor the dead is to keep living, keep fighting, keep choosing light even when darkness would be so much easier. The stars reflected on black water like diamonds scattered across velvet. "I love you," she whispered to the wind. "I'll always love you. And I promise, I won't let them win." The ocean, ancient and patient, carried her words into eternity. The end.